The Royals begin their series in Philadelphia tonight, so let's get to our mailbag questions before Game 1.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned to another edition of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That's probably the easiest way to reach me. But if you just want to listen to this podcast and not see that daily content on social media, you can find us on wherever you listen to your podcast. For the first-time listeners out there wondering how this channel works, I bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes in length, and Chance Lebo brings you the Locked On Royals postcast, where he goes to you live for about 15 to 20 minutes after the game. Before we get started in answering all the questions today, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner, and visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Or I should say, football season is in full swing. College and NFL are already underway, so get your bets in before tonight's game. You got K-State and Arizona. You also have a full slate of college football tomorrow and a full slate of NFL on Sunday. So put your bets in now over at FanDuel. We have probably about 35 to 40 questions to get to, and I'll start it off here with Curtis's question, which just came from a few days back. Do we see Luinder Avila being more of a starter or a bullpen arm in the majors? Well, I feel that if he has the best chance of sticking on this roster next year, which right now I would have him breaking camp with the team, it's going to be out of the bullpen just because the rotation is so crowded. There's not a lot of space for him to wiggle his way into the number 5 spot. I feel his best role would be in that long relief, maybe that 1 to 2 inning role if it is a high leverage spot, but his stuff plays up, man. I don't want to see him go back down to AAA after what he's showcased so far. Now, it could always go south, and he could pitch really poorly in his next couple of outings, but it's undeniable that he has an arsenal that can really play well in the bullpen. And on top of that, he's a 3-pitch guy. I know he throws a changeup, but he's only thrown it twice this year. The 8 innings that he's thrown and the 7 innings that he's thrown, not a lot of usage there. He throws his curveball more than anything. It has a spin rate nearly 3,000 or 3,000 RPMs. His fastball and sinker have some good spin as well. I want that in the bullpen. Now, maybe down the road he could be a starter, but they've got a lot of guys that are ahead of him in that department. Let's get to the one from Parker. Why did they start Mailey last night instead of Carter Jensen? Well, it appeared from Annie Rogers' question to Q in pregame that, Mailey is a veteran, right? He knows how to catch a lot of guys on the team, whether it be Stephen Kolek or it be the bullpen guys. That wasn't really the main reason. It came down to the splits that Gavin Williams had. And Gavin Williams was holding left-handed hitters to a sub-150 average, and that's a tough matchup for a rookie like Carter Jensen. The good news is, with the Royals being 5 games back now, I'm not sure you need to be treating these games and holding Carter Jensen or Jack Caglione back. I'd be all right with them in the lineup every single night. If you're going to play Yaz in left, Cags goes to right, Salvi DHs, Carter behind the plate. Might as well get the most out of him to close out these final 15 games. This one's coming from King Chris. This is my go-to podcast. Your show gets me through my workday. Well, glad to hear that. And my question is, where is your favorite establishment, food item, and beer to watch a Royals game? I would say my favorite place to watch a Royals game, like if I'm just trying to relax, it would be my house, watching it either on my back porch or just down in my living room. But if it's a public place, I love Coach's. If you guys have been to Coach's, there's multiple locations, nice sports bar. They have a phenomenal patio. I'm a big patio guy, especially this time of the year. So I love doing it for college football and NFL Sundays. But for Royals games, they got it on multiple TVs. I like pretty much everything they have on the menu. But for watching a Royals game, my favorite item to have, or my food item, probably a hot dog. I just go back to, watching a game there. That might be one of my answers too. I love watching Royals baseball actually at the game in person, and to get a beer and a hot dog there, that's my go-to. Or if I'm just at home, I'll grill up a couple of hot dogs for a Sunday game and have that as well. But love that question. As always, they don't need to always revolve around the team. They can revolve around my daily life and I guess how I watch the Royals or what I like to do in my free time. I know for a lot of people, That might be their question today, considering how last night went. This one is coming from, looks like Matt. Is it just me, or does Jack seem to look better since coming back up? He's had some good ABs, hit the ball hard, and has been on base a significant amount. I'm encouraged, or am I crazy? The kid has to start somewhere. Love the show. And thanks for the kind words as always. I do believe that he's looked a little bit more comfortable. The numbers aren't there yet, and let's be honest, they're not going to be this year. He's not going to be able to raise his average over 200 in the final 15 games of the season. What you can hope, though, is he can finish on a hot stretch and take that into the offseason. Just finish on a high note. And that, to me, was step one in really getting him settled down at the big league level. You got to look comfortable at the plate. And he's starting to spit on some pitches that he was just hacking at every single time when he was first up in the big leagues. And so now I think to have that fresh, restart in the offseason, come back for spring training, he's not going to be this incredible hot commodity like he was last spring training, and just focus on making the team and starting the season better. I love this quote. I can't remember who it's from, but it's from a former player of, when you're going up to the plate and you see 150 or you're hitting under 200, you see that every single day. At times, a reset's what you need. And I feel this offseason could be a nice reset for Jack Caglione. Looks like that'll do it for our questions on YouTube. Now we got about 30 plus to get to on Twitter. Starting with JHB, with a possible rotation next season of Reagans, Bubic, Bergert, Kolick, Lugo, Cameron, and Waka. Where do they go with this? Also, do they bring back Yaz and Frazier? I have seen reports of them wanting to re-sign both. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they brought back Yaz and Frazier. Frazier seems like a really likely candidate because I feel he can be a nice piece for you off the bench. And what you got for him, or what you gave up for him, and what he's given you since that trade, I feel it's kind of worth a bench spot. It could be a one-year deal. It can be less than $5 million a year. That feels very playable for Adam Frazier. For Yaz, a little bit more expensive, but I would love to see Yaz back. I really feel that he's helped out this lineup, and I feel he can be that top of the order bat that they were searching for last offseason and weren't able to get in Jonathan India. So I feel Yaz could be another affordable option just to have for your outfield. And then for the rotation, if they're all healthy, I think it'll be Reagans. I think it'll be Lugo, Waka, then Noah Cameron and Chris Bubic. Those would be the five. Ryan Bergert, he is squeezed out there, but the other five there are just more proven commodities and had better seasons. Now, Ryan Bergert's going to make multiple starts for the Royals. Same for Stephen Kolick. And who knows, maybe they're stashed in the bullpen to begin the year. But one of those guys, assuming they have the options, are going to have to be stretched out in Omaha in case one of those guys goes down. This one is from Colo, I believe. How concerning is the fact that Omaha is currently fielding all Quad A players? Maybe a little bit concerning, but that's kind of what AAA is for, if we're being honest. Like your top prospect, your boom prospects, if you will, they're usually in AA. And then if they get to AAA, we saw it with Carter, we saw it with Caglione, they didn't spend much time there. So, Omaha is for depth. It's for guys that, are still trying to hang on. They're simply there to be your reserves. It's kind of like the practice squad in the NFL. You're not asking for a lot of these guys to be your everyday players. Sometimes they are. But yeah, Omaha just doesn't have a lot of big-time players on them anymore, especially in the pitching department, and that would be more concerning with me. Offensively, it is what it is. I mean, hey, MJ Melendez hit for the cycle last night. Good for him. I don't know what the plan is for him next year, but he did rebound nicely in Omaha. It just never came together in Kansas City, and I'm not sure that it ever will. This one's from Crime Dog. Can we please stop trying to make the narrative this season tough luck with starters on the IL? We just wiped our ass with another outstanding start. There needs to be more accountability on offense. My point last night was not to say, they're just a bad luck team. They got banged up on the injured list. We all know the offense, if they were slightly better, they're in a much better position than they are right now. Like if they were the 20th best offense in the league, they're probably where the Rangers are at bare minimum, or maybe they're even where Seattle and Houston are, which I'll give credit to a couple of our listeners that said, why aren't we focusing on Houston? The Mariners and Astros are now tied atop the AL West. So maybe our attention needs to shift on Houston if the Royals are to make some miraculous push in the final 15 games. But I feel with this offense, even though they've been putrid and they've been so inconsistent and they are a top reason why this team has struggled, I feel we'd also be foolish in not bringing up that their number one pitcher from last year was not able to be on the field barely at all this year. And when he wasn't effective. Seth Lugo has wound up on the injured list. Noah Cameron, has spent time on the injured list. We have seen, or not Noah Cameron, he just missed a start. All 5 guys in the opening day roster that were in the starting rotation wound up on the injured list. Your best performer in Chris Bubich was on the injured list. So Reagans, Waka, Lugo, Bubich, and Lorenzen all wound up on the injured list. And yet, here they are at 74 and 73. There's not a lot of teams that could, survive that, be still over 500. It's not to make light of what's been, for the most part, a disappointing finish to this season. But I look at Seattle. I watched a little bit of their game last night. They've started only 5 guys this season, and yet, they're still hanging on by a thread for that wild card spot, though they're also tied atop the American League West. Both of those things can be factors here. So, yes, the offense is a huge issue, but also we got to bring up that all 5 of their starters from opening day were on the injured list at some point in the season, and they had to call on other guys, even 50,000-year-old Rich Hill, to make 2 starts for this team. Let's take our first break of the show. When we come back, still a lot of questions to get to next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can follow us on wherever you listen to your podcast. Want to tell you about one of our newer sponsors in Nutrafol. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There are so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you need to give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just the hype. This is the supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com with promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Next set of questions is going to begin with Dev. What's the best way to end my subscription? So I'm assuming, because we don't give a subscription service here, so I'm glad you're still listening to us. I'm assuming the FanDuel Sports Network. I'm sure there's a settings device where you just end your subscription, or you go to the settings account on the app or on your TV and just end it there. So if you're done watching Royals baseball, that's probably the best way to do it, or just go to their website. I really don't know, because I will not be canceling mine on Amazon Prime for the offseason. This one's from Brent. Can we fire Zumwalt now? Well, it doesn't make much sense to do it with 15 games left in the season. If they are to make a change, it'll happen in the offseason. And I am curious what that plan will be, because the Royals are barreling toward finishing about 2 to 3 teams behind, or I would say for the wild card race, they'll finish probably behind Cleveland and Texas, barring some incredible stretch here in the final 15 games. And then when you get to that point, we know the offense will be bottom 5. I could see a world in which Alex Zumwalt returns to the front office, and then the Royals could figure out what they want to do with their hitting coaches. We'll certainly hear. I feel we're going to get an answer when J.J. Picollo and John Sherman speak to the media. They always have that end of the season in review press conference. They're going to be asked that question, and I'm sure that we're going to get a better answer on that. Now, it might be a smokescreen. They might say, yeah, we are fully in support of Alex Zumwalt, and we want him with this team. And then we'll hear a few weeks later he's moving back to the front office, and then you'll have somebody else come in as the hitting coach. But it's not just moving on from Zumwalt. They need to make sure they're bringing in the right guy. And I can't remember who it was, because I want to give credit to this listener. He was on Twitter, and they need to be looking into some of the hitting coaches for the Athletics, because even though they were in a minor league ballpark, they turned that offense into a really scary bunch, despite having one of the worst pitching staffs in all of baseball. So they were a team that wasn't able to reach their ceiling because their pitching staff was so bad, but that offense won them a lot of games this year. I would look there if you're able to pry anybody away. This one's from Crazy Dave. Is the playoff dream dead, or is it just a really long shot? Kind of depends on what type of fan you are, in terms of, are you ready to move on, right? If you are ready to just tune into football, then yeah, the playoffs are dead at this point. Like if you're kind of on the fence of what do I want to do, I can be honest with you, I don't see a ridiculous run. I feel we would have seen it at this point. Also, the schedule doesn't favor a ridiculous run. They get one of the hottest teams in baseball in Philadelphia beginning tonight. Then you get the Mariners, who are incredibly hot. Then you get the Blue Jays, who are incredibly hot. Then you get the Angels, who you struggled with. And then you get the Athletics, and we just talked about the offense. So unless they were to go like 13-2 to close out the year, the playoff dreams are dead. But if you want to have some hope, as I've said all week long, until they're mathematically eliminated, something is always possible. But if I'm going to be realistic, I would probably say that the playoff hopes are dead at this point. Danny's question, at this point, would it not be more beneficial to give Jensen more time behind the plate? Also, do you see any drastic changes actually coming to the hitting staff this offseason? So 2 things we kind of touched on already. Don't fault you. It's just where your question fell in our order. Jensen, I would put him behind the plate. You might as well see at this point. You're 5 games back of a playoff spot with 15 to go. He can also help you a little bit. It gives Salvador Perez time to DH. And also, let's worry about accolades at this point. Let's get Salvador Perez to 300 home runs. He needs 2 more. Let him DH. Let him relax. Let him rest. And have Carter Jensen get this opportunity to catch in the final 15 games. As for the hitting staff, I'll call my shot now that I do see a different hitting coach implemented, or maybe it's just an assistant hitting coach, but I would call that a drastic change. They've got Keone Duren and Alex Zumwalt. I still feel that Alex Zumwalt has a lot of value for this organization. I thought he was an incredibly bright mind in the front office. It was the right move when they fired Terry Bradshaw to bring in Alex Zumwalt, but sometimes it's just a results-based business, and the offense wasn't very good this year, and the offense wasn't good enough last year, and a big reason why they went home in October. But a lot of this also comes down to the offensive players themselves, right? So a hitting coach can only do so much. Some of these guys just simply have to be better, and this lineup has to be more, rounded, if you will. Has to be well-rounded. And that goes to J.J. Picollo as well. He's got to assemble a lineup that's much better than it was this year, but also they're going to need some pretty significant improvements from guys like Jack Caglione. They're going to need some improvements from guys like, Nick Lofton, if he's back, Michael Massey for sure. He's got to bounce back in a big way. So I would say that I do expect a change. I could always be wrong, but that's where I am right now because the Royals coming off a year where they're likely to miss the postseason. It's not like last year where we improved by 30 games, won a postseason series. We're not changing anything on this coaching staff. To now it's, you missed the postseason and the offense was really poor for the entire season. I could just see a world in which that happens. But I also could see a world in which Zumwalt just moves back to the front office and can help out there. Next one is coming from Luke. What's the point of bringing in a pinch runner if he's just going to stay glued to first for 3 straight at-bats? That was one of my frustrations from last night. Tyler Tolbert in that spot cannot, A, be afraid to get thrown out at second base, or B, not get a great read off of Cade Smith. You are in there to steal bases, and he's been successful at it this year. I did not get that whatsoever. On top of that, you had the bottom of the order that was still up. You had Kyle Isbell, and then you had Mailey's spot, which then became Nick Lofton's, and then you had Yastrzemski. If Tolbert was on first base and Bobby Wick Jr. was up next, then I get it. We're not stealing. And then Vinny Pasquantino right after that, and Maikel Garcia. I actually could understand that. Now I would steal second with 2 outs because Garcia could just bloop one into right, and then you can tie the game up there. But with the bottom of the order, you already know you're going to need to manufacture that run with a bunt, which you were planning on. Tolbert's got to go. If you're a pinch runner, if you get thrown out and you're a pinch runner, I get it. It's frustrating. Everybody gets mad about it. But I'd rather you get thrown out there to begin the inning than just stay there while Kyle Isbell strikes out on a bunt and then Nick Lofton strikes out and then Yaz pops up to right field. Give somebody the chance to tie the game with one bloop single to anywhere in the outfield. That's what I would have loved to see it, and Tyler Tolbert's got to be better in that spot. Caden's question, there's literally no chance to make the playoffs anymore, but what do you think this team looks like on opening day in 26 with free agents, if you think they sign any? Again, I think once we get to the offseason, I'm going to do a full breakdown of guys that I think they should go after. We kind of did it last year where we just went like 5 episodes a week, and each episode was a guy that I believe could really help this team. Who I think is going to be back, Salvi's going to be back behind the plate. I think Carter Jensen makes the team as the backup catcher. Then you've got Maikel Garcia at third, Bobby at short. I'm really torn between, is it going to be Massey or India? My gut tells me it's going to be Massey, but also Massey's got to give them more than he did, this entire season. That's a big roll of the dice. Vinny's going to be at first base. Kyle Isbell, I believe, is going to be in center. I could see Caglione in right, and then there's going to be an addition for left field. That would be my gut feeling right now. Mike Yastrzemski, I also do believe could be back in some capacity. Adam Frazier as well. But they're going to go into this offseason, I believe, really trying to make a splash. Not a big splash like Kyle Tucker, but somebody that can really move the needle with this lineup and probably go after a couple of platoon bats from the right side so you can lengthen out that lineup a little bit. Okay, that's going to do it for our final break here, or we're heading into our final break of our Mailbag Friday. When we come back, we'll wrap it up with our final set of questions next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned in to Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can follow me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. Our final sponsor we want to tell you about is our title sponsor in FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. For my two picks, I'll go NFL again. I'll take the over on receiving yards for DK Metcalf. The Steelers will be taking on the Seahawks this coming weekend. And then I'm going to take the over for passing yards with Geno Smith in their Monday night showdown with the Los Angeles Chargers. So I feel pretty confident in two of those guys performing in a big-time way. And I also think that the Steelers will win their game. Not going to put money down on the money line. But I could see a world in which, who knows, maybe the Raiders with a big game from Geno Smith could knock off the Chargers to move the 2-0. Our final questions are going to begin here with the closer. Besides Estevez, who do you trust in the last 3 innings? Well, Lucas Erceg, number one. The second guy on that list, at least with the way things are going right now, probably, I would say, Serpa is somebody that's really gained my trust. I know it can be up and down a little bit, but for full confidence, right now it's just Estevez and Erceg, truthfully with you. I feel Serpa's got the stuff when he's on. Schreiber has the stuff when he's on as well, but he's had a rough couple of outings of late, so I can't say with certainty that I would put him in my list. So for right now, even Serpa's kind of wavering there. So I'd really just say last 3 innings, Lucas Erceg. If I had to pick one other guy, then probably Serpa, because he can still run it up 98, 99. And when that's located well, it can be really tough to hit. Next one's coming from Tom. Discuss Luke Nowick and his insane 82 plate appearance stats for the Fireflies. And could we see him in Kansas City by 2027 batting leadoff and playing left field? That might be too early of a timeline for a guy like him that's in low A, although I did see last night the Fireflies are moving on to the championship, so we get to see more of David Shields and Kendry Churio. I would say that my next outfield target would be Carson Roccaforte. I feel that he is that guy that could maybe debut as early as next year. For some of the guys in low A Columbia, I would put more of a timeline in 28 or 29. It's just so low in the minor league ranks where you're going to need to show that you can do it in Quad Cities and then Northwest Arkansas and then AAA Omaha. But love the question, though. This one's from Scott. Is India back on the team next year? He's been a disappointment. I think he's a free agent after this year. He technically would be back next year. He would be under contract, but he's going to be a little bit more expensive. And for a guy like him with the numbers he put up, is it worth that type of money? I would say no. I don't believe he's worth that type of money because the offensive numbers weren't good enough to be that poor defensively. Now, maybe they'll chalk it up as he was really banged up this year, which I can back that up. I mean, he's been on the injured list multiple times. He's been hit by pitches. He's been spiked, just really battered and bruised. And they could take that as we'll see a much better version of him. And the Royals have done that before. His offensive numbers are also better than Michael Massey's. So I would say that I would not have him back next year. I feel that you could try to maybe upgrade that position a little bit, but also the Royals could just say he's going to be healthier and we're going to take our chances again. So I could see the Royals keeping him, though I don't believe that would be the best plan of attack moving forward. King's question, lineup for next year. So early to tell without any idea of who they'd be targeting in free agency or via trade. So I'll say that Yastrzemski's back. He'll be in right field. Bobby will hit second. Then you have Vinny third, Garcia fourth, Perez fifth. I'll go Caglione DHing. And then seventh, you would have, let's go Jonathan India there. Eighth would then be, well, then it kind of goes against my point of a left fielder, a big-time left fielder that they would need. For now, I'm going to leave that spot blank because I do believe that left fielder is going to be a big-time bat for that order, and then Isbell will hit ninth. So let's move down, Caglione and Isbell there so that middle of the order back could hit sixth in that lineup. But I'm still going through a couple different guys that I think would be really good fits for Kansas City. This one is from Casey Preds fan. Is a ridiculous sentiment to say that I honestly feel better about the Royals' future after this year than I did at the end of last year. Feels like there's something closer to an established core being developed finally, whereas last year it was just Bobby and friends. I wouldn't argue against that point at all. Last year, there were a lot of people that said, that's a fluke year. You're not going to get that again from Waka and Lugo and Reagans. And for the most part, they were right, where they weren't going to get that type of production. But to have this type of year from Maikel Garcia, to have this type of year from Vinny Pasquantino, those are three great core players for you. You get Jack Caglione up to the big leagues. Numbers aren't there, but there's still a great upside. Carter Jensen's now here. The pitching staff has more depth. The bullpen's top five. There is more of an established part of this foundation. And I feel this team also has an aggressive GM, an aggressive owner where they can upgrade. Where I was curious what this year was really going to look like. There was a lot of expectation. Some people had them to win the Central. They didn't even come close to doing that. And they're not going to be that close to making a playoff spot if things keep going the way they have been. So I would say for the most part that, I feel that there is more of a core in place. And at the end of the day, the Royals didn't follow up a playoff year with, what Baltimore did this year and being 15 to 20 games below 500 for the entirety of this season. I mean, that would have been alarming where you go, man, that was just a one-off and they hit on everybody for 1 year. And now it's not looking that great. I feel they've got a lot of young, good pieces that are going to be here for the next handful of years. This one is coming from KC, and we got to wrap it up pretty quickly here. What team do you think Bobby will win a World Series with? Definitely isn't the Royals. Well, I'm not going to say that he's going to play anywhere else other than Kansas City. I really feel in talking with him and talking to people, with the organization, that he does love it here. Like he is somebody that wants to spend his entire career here. And I'm not going to make that, assessment 4 years into his big league career. He's still under contract for a lot of years, and the Royals are going to do everything in their power to make sure that he's got those opportunities, which is how they got him to sign the extension, that they were going to be aggressive and try to make the most out of the years that he's here. This one's from David. I know most in the media defend Q to a fault, but can you at least admit some of the decisions made with the lineup for at least a week or two now have been baffling and at least deserve some criticism? Even your partner in the podcast has reached a level of frustration to admit it. Look, I would say that I don't try to defend Q all the time. Maybe it comes across that way. But also, I mean, when you think about it, of their 73 losses this year, I've had 15 to 20 people every single time say the reason they lost was because of Matt Quatraro. So, no, all 73 of their losses have not been on Matt Quatraro. Has there been some questionable lineup moves and pinch hitting moves? Absolutely. I can acknowledge that. And there's been questionable bullpen moves. Every manager in baseball will be criticized for a move they make, multiple moves they make, even the best teams out there. You go to at Philadelphia, Rob Thompson and what he's done this year. I'll go through Phillies media sometimes and on Twitter, and I see him getting bashed. It just happens. So if you're somebody saying fire him and get another manager, I guarantee 100% without fail, whoever the next manager of the Royals will get the same amount of criticism because that's just what the manager gets, right? Every manager in baseball gets criticism like this. Can I criticize some moves? Absolutely. But I'm also not going to come on this podcast after every loss and say that's the reason he lost. Like last night, did Matt Quatraro throw the pitch to CJ Kafis that was a 2-run home run? No, it's on John Schreiber there. If he gives the bunt sign to Kyle Isbell, I don't agree with that. He's a great bunter, and he's got to get the bunt down. That's a player fault right there. So that's why maybe it comes across I defend him more, but I try not to. I try to also criticize, and I don't agree with the decision to bunt last night or not to send Tolbert or pinch hit Lofton. But all 73 losses, I mean, I've literally seen a comment after every single game of this one's on the manager. Sometimes, guys, it can be on the player. Like I'm a big supporter of the players and what they do, and they're the guys that get the wins. But if they're the guys that are going to get the wins, they also can be at fault for some of these games. And last night, I feel that everybody was so quick to move on from Schreiber giving up the home run to the bunt in the pinch hitting situation. Well, the Royals could have been up 2-1 in that inning and then turning to Estevez in the ninth. So that's why maybe I come across that way, more often than not. It's a fair question, though. If I come across like I'm trying to defend him, I promise I'm not. I'm trying to find some reasonable blame other than every time coming on this podcast saying, well, another loss, and it's because of the manager. This one's from Curtis. Actually, we already answered Curtis's question. Ballistic Bubic, who do you think makes up the 13 pitchers on the big league roster on opening day? So we had the 5 that I mentioned earlier. Estevez and Ursig would be 6 and 7. Serpa will be 8. I'll go Daniel Lynch as the 9th. I think Cruz will be the 10th. Then I'll have Bolin making it as well. Avila I have. And then I'm missing somebody else here. I just know I am. I'll go with then at that point, Bergert or Kolek, one of those. So Bergert would be the 13th. So I'll say Bergert's there, and then Kolek would be the guy that stays stretched out in Omaha, assuming he has those options. This one is from Steve. Did you hear anything about Osbel Gonzalez in Colombia? He started out the season on fire, but it's cooled a lot. He has a ton of stolen bases, and when I saw him, he played a real good center field. I think he's 19. Haven't heard too much of him of late. They are very high on him, and he's somebody that could progress well in the system. Thing is, he's still 19, and the guys that are stealing the show in Colombia are by far and away David Shields and Kendry Churio. Sam's question, what is this team missing? They've been trying to find ways to improve this year, but haven't really unlocked their full potential. What or who is to blame? It's the offense. I mean, they're going to need to have 1 or 2 big-time bats for that lineup to really make up for some of the struggles they're going to have throughout the season. And they got to prepare for some guys taking a step back next year. You can't always count on somebody to follow up what they did this year and be even better next year. This one's from Justin. I'm actually pretty excited about next year's pitcher and prospects. A healthy Reagans and Bubic. Probably not going to hold on to all of them. Who do you think the Royals will try to flip a bat for in the offseason? One name to keep an eye on would probably be Chris Bubic because, he flashed what he was able to do. You have a crowded rotation, and he might be one of those guys coming up on a contract year that could generate a ton of interest, and you could get one of those big-time bats for the lineup. So he's somebody I would keep an eye on. Missoura's question, would you rather never eat chicken or beef again? Oh, man, I'm a big fast food chicken guy, but I also love beef. Oh, I'll probably have to I'll have to say I'd rather never eat chicken again. Unfortunately, it pains me to do, but that would probably be my answer. This one's from Brian. Sorry if I missed this, but is there a reason why they won't let Jensen catch? When he got called up, they said that he'll be there for defensive replacement, pinch hitting, and pinch running. Didn't pinch hit last night, but I just don't think they're trying to throw him into the fire in a playoff chase. But now with you being 5 games back, there might be more of an opportunity to get out there in the everyday lineup. This one is from Caleb. Who do you think the starting rotation will be next year? Yeah, we touched on that. No fault to your own. We just answered it a little bit earlier. Again, I'll just reiterate it. Reagans, Lugo, Waka, Cameron, and Bubic, unless they were to trade Bubic. And if they do, I'll go with Berger. Craig's question, when are Zumwalt and Q getting fired? Well, Q's not getting fired. He got the extension in the offseason. As for Zumwalt, I already gave my pick. I do think there will be a change with the hitting coaches. Not really confident on that. It's purely a guess just based off the numbers from this year. This one is from Carson. Why in the hell was Isbell trying to bunt with 2 strikes in the count? Why did we put Tolbert in to not run at all? When they put Tolbert in, it comes down to if he can get a good read. So if the steal sign's on, he's got to find a good read, and clearly he never did. With Isbell, I don't agree with bunting 2 strikes ever. He's got to get the bunt down. He's also got to know the right pitches to bunt, and both of them that he tried to bunt were never close at all. Mike's question, Waka, Cruz, and Reagans are set to return next week. What 3 pitchers will they replace? Well, I don't even know if there's a need to bring any of those guys back at this point. Yes, at one point it made sense for Reagans, but they've got a rotation right now that's pitching every 5th day. If they were to bring all 3 of them back, Waka will probably replace, who would it be? Oh, Waka can just come back in to – because did Kolek come up? No, Kolek came up for Lugo. Waka, I think it was Avila that came up, right? I believe Avila was the one that came up instead of Waka. So Avila will go back down for Cruz. Maybe Bolin, I would say. And then for Reagans, I just too many unknowns there. Maybe Kolek at that point if you wanted to get Reagans in, but I don't want to move Kolek back down at this point. I feel like Kolek has earned a chance to start every fifth day. Brian's question, considering Vinny's 3,100 season, what's his extension look like? Maybe 4 years, $40 million. Do we need to see another similar year for Michael before extending him? Have a great weekend. Same to you as well, Brian. I would say for Vinny, anywhere from 12 to 15 million a year would make a lot of sense, probably in that 4-year range. For Michael, man, I think he's been good enough. He might warrant that extension. I feel it's a really good way to kick off your offseason is extending both those guys, both young, both big parts of the team. And I think Michael kind of the same thing in that 12 to 15 million range. This one, lastly, is from Kevin. What are you most grateful for the 2025 Royals season? Could be a player, particular game, or storyline. I would say how invested everybody was in all season long. It's really fun to do this podcast when you have so many people that care. Being able to travel and, see Jack Caglione's debut in St. Louis was awesome. My highlight, though, was seeing the Royals in San Francisco. Getting to go there with my brother and watch those games there. By far, no. I mean, that's my favorite stadium to go to in all of sports. So I would say to see those games, it was awesome. And the Royals took that series, 2 out of 3 from San Francisco. So I wish they played there every single year, but next year the Giants will be in Kansas City. But that would be my answer. Okay, that'll do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every day. For your second, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll be off this weekend, but back on Monday recapping the Phillies series. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.